Bonjour everyone and welcome back to Farmers Corners FC French football with the accent, the podcast about French clubs, Ligue 1, European football as long as there's French people involved and everything French. Today we're going to talk about the 5 European games going on this week and the 9 Ligue 1 games that happened this weekend. OM Lens, the 10th game, was postponed because of the number of COVID cases in the Lens team. It's the second week in a row that their game is actually postponed. The game against Nantes last week was postponed and now the games against Marseille. And as far as replaying those games, the game between Lens and Nantes will probably be played midweek after the international break, but the game against Marseille will probably have to be played in 2021 with the calendar that Marseille has until the end of the calendar year of 2020 between the Champions League and the Ligue 1. It's not going to be possible, I think, to play that game before Christmas. So let's see in January for that game between Marseille and Lens. In Champions League and Europa League this week, we saw 2 wins, a draw, and 2 losses, so a little bit better than what we've seen in the first week of Europa League and Champions League for the French club. And as far as this weekend in Ligue 1, only 9 games, like I said, 20 goals, not a lot. Only 2 red cards, it's pretty good. There was some good result though in those 20 goals, a couple of 4-0s going on. 4 away wins, which is a good performance as well. And yeah, only 2 red cards. One of them actually also contested, so it was good for once. Metz Udol and Lyon's Marcelo with the 2 red cards this weekend. The Farmers Focus of the week will be once again about European football. We're quickly going to touch about the results from last week, but more importantly talking about the games coming up, and then we'll debrief as usual the 9 games of matchday 9 in Ligue 1. But first, music! Alright, Farmers Focus of the week starts right now, and like I said, we're going to talk about European competition, UEFA Champions League and Europa League, the 5 teams involved, and who are they going to meet this week. We're going to start with Paris Saint-Germain. The club from the capital will feel relieved that they got the 3 points last week in Istanbul against Başakşehir. They were sort of dominated and seemingly disorganized after Neymar's injury. Neymar, who was injured and then was not injured and then was injured and finally got out in the first half. But they did take advantage of on the fact that Başakşehir was just a bit weak up front. I mean, their main striker was Crivelli, who couldn't really find a spot in Ligue 1 back when he was playing for Bordeaux. So he's now number 1 in Başakşehir, and he was not the best striker. They took advantage of that, and obviously Moise Kean pretty clinical in Istanbul with 2 goals at the 64th and the 79th minute. A 2-0 win for Paris Saint-Germain, who are getting their first points after the loss home against Manchester United. The best player of the game was Keylor Navas again. It's been a few games now in a row that the goalkeeper is the best player for Paris Saint-Germain, which is probably not the best thing. And yeah, I think the main thing was that the midfield, Marquinhos, Herrera, just wasn't the best combination, I guess, for the midfield in Paris Saint-Germain, which is a bit of a blow for Thomas Tuchel, who said again that Marquinhos was the heart and soul of his midfield, and that's why he was playing in midfield, and that's why Danilo, who got bought from Porto, was going to play in defense with not the best outcome, as we'll see in Ligue 1. On Wednesday, PSG is traveling to Leipzig for their 3rd game of the group. It's the rematch of the UEFA Champions League semi-final of 2020, which was only really a few weeks back in August. If we talk about Leipzig, they were undefeated until the game in Old Trafford last week, where they got smashed 5-0. They showed in Manchester United a pretty good face, to be honest, a very offensive team, 5 or 6 players even, with I guess more of an offensive mindset. And even though they conceded in the 20th minute, if I'm not mistaken, then they held off pretty well until the hour mark, and then Rashford, MBE, the new god of England, got in and scored a hat-trick, and then next thing you know, it was 5-0 for Manchester United. A few days later, Leipzig lost again this weekend in Bundesliga, this time in Gladbach, 1-0, and they basically showed what everyone feared after Timo Werner's departure. Nagelsmann has a team that's very creative in the midfield, but they're just not good enough up front. If you add to that the lack of form of the centre back, Upamecano and Orban, who are in the best form, it's just going to be a tough game for Leipzig. And to be honest, I don't really see them being a problem for Paris Saint-Germain, who are sort of in a good series in Ligue 1, even though we always criticize the way they play because we expect so much. They are in a positive form, and they have some pretty positive games besides the game against Manchester. They won 7 consecutive games in Liga, and they won last week in Basaksehir here. So I see them really. I really see them getting the 3 points from Leipzig. The duel to match for me will be in the midfield between the very well oiled, the technically gifted Sabitzer, Campbell, Forsberg in Leipzig, and a Paris Saint-Germain midfield who still didn't perform to the level expected. And if it's going to be Marquinhos or Danilo in the midfield is the question, even though Tuchel said it was going to be Marquinhos always. And who's going to be next to Marquinhos? And because Neymar is not playing, is that going to be 3 in the midfield or only 2 in the middle of the midfield playing a 4-4-2? It'll be interesting to see what Tuchel does. The 2 games this week proved that Marquinhos probably wasn't as good as Tuchel wanted him to be in the midfield. So let's see if he changes that against a team Leipzig who play with very, very, very high intensity, and an intensity that Tuchel would like his team to have. And Tuchel, before the weekend, he was happy about the weekend, but before the weekend recognized that Paris Saint-Germain did not have yet the intensity, especially in the what they call the gegenpressing, the counter-pressing, that Tuchel wants from his team. So we'll see how this game pans out, but I do see Paris Saint-Germain getting their second win of the group in Leipzig. Next up is Marseille. Olympique de Marseille, terrible loss versus Manchester City this week, 3-0 at home in the Stade Vélodrome without any fans, of course. I was actually on the Marseille View podcast. It's a podcast made by and for Marseille fans in English, with Stefan from Leeds and Mohamed, who lives somewhere else in England, and a few people that live in Canada and anywhere else in the world. Everyone speaks English, everyone loves Marseille, and we just talk about how disappointed we are in Marseille performance these days. OM really didn't play well against Manchester City and didn't offer any offensive threat to Manchester City. They were one of the worst one of the worst display that we've seen from a French club in Champions League, just sort of defending and not doing anything and being afraid to actually go forward. Hopefully that's going to change when they're traveling to Porto. They sort of were lucky not to play this weekend because Lens couldn't play because of the COVID cases. So they were able to get a week off, which is a nice luxury for Marseille. Obviously, traveling to Porto on Tuesday night will be a very special game for the UM staff. Andre Villas-Boas and Ricardo Carvalho, they've known huge successes in Porto. Villas-Boas was Mourinho's number 2 when they won the Champions League in 2004, and Carvalho was playing, and then Villas-Boas took over and got some success of his own as a coach before he got signed by Chelsea. So it's going to be very special for them to go to play in Porto. Porto, after winning Olympiacos 2-0 last week in the middle of the week in Champions League, had a complicated game this weekend. They played in Pacos Ferreira, and the Dragons were actually losing 2-0 and then 3-1 and ended up losing 3-2. They could have conceded more goals as well. Their defense without Pepe this weekend just looked horrid, and too often were overtaken by a supposedly weaker Pacos Ferreira. It was a pretty poor showing for Porto this weekend. Hopefully it inspired OM, but I think Marseille is going to have a a very hard game at Estadio de Dragão. They need results, and if they have any hope of qualifying for either the Champions League or even the Europa League, they really need to get a result. Plus, if they do lose this week, they are going to equal the UEFA Champions League record of consecutive losses with 12 losses, which is now, I think, Dinamo Zagreb. So Marseille really want to be able to get at least a point from Porto, be it a very, very hard task and maybe a small miracle if they're able to get a point. But like I said, a whole week of rest, which is a real luxury this season for Marseille. They need to show a will to play football, I think, and they need to show that they believe that they can actually score a goal or get the points, and we need to see something different that we've seen in Manchester City, because otherwise people are going to really start asking for maybe Andre Villas-Boas' head or something. It's going to be hard to be only happy with the Ligue 1 results as long as Champions League is going on. In January, if we're disqualified from Champions League, people are going to not be happy and then forget about it and then focus on the Championship and trying to get as far as possible in the league. But right now that we're playing in Champions League, Marseille needs to show a better face and show that we should be respected in Europe as well as in Ligue 1. Next up is Rennes. Rennes, who, as expected, did not really get a good result in Sevilla last week, losing 1-0. But it was really a game where the best player were the goalkeeper Gomis, and it showed. Sevilla really dominated the game. Rennes only had 2 shots. Kind of like what OM had done the night before, but for other reasons. Rennes, who, mind you, didn't have Nzonzi, who's probably the Rennes player who knows the most about Sevilla because he used to play there, and didn't have Camavinga either, so they have excuses for how bad the game was. But yeah, there was definitely no offensive threat. The first half was all Sevilla, and Sevilla finished with 65% on position and 23 shots, 10 of them on target. So only scoring 1 goal shows how Gomis was good in between the post for Rennes. This week it's Rennes' turn to cross the channel. They'll play Chelsea at Stamford Bridge. The Blues are in fine form, 9 games undefeated in all competition. They won 4-0 in Krasnodar last week, and then they won 3-0 in Burnley this weekend with new recruit Ziyech and Werner scoring a goal in each game. So they're both in really good form, and Ziyech, I think, also assisted Werner in the game in Burnley. The former Ajax player is finally able to play, and he's really making a difference in Chelsea's squad with his space and his technique. And it seems that Lampard has finally found that balance in his team with all those technical players. He only had Kante sort of playing as a holding midfielder, and then you have Mount, Havertz, Ziyech, Werner, all quick players, technical, playing pretty football. I think it's going to be really hard for Rennes to get a result over there. Sevilla did bring a point back from Chelsea when they traveled to Stamford Bridge, so all hope isn't lost. But I don't think it's going to be easy. I think Chelsea, like I said, found their groove. Edouard Mendy, the former Rennes keeper, is being really, really good with the Blues. So is Thiago Silva in defense. So not only is it going to be hard to score a goal, but then you also have to resist the armada of offensive talent that is in the Chelsea team. I wish Rennes the best, but I don't expect a lot of good results from Champions League, unfortunately, this week. Now going to Europa League, Lille and Nice, of course. Lille first after drawing home versus Celtic 2-2 this week, and losing 2-0 and going back to 2-2. They're going to travel to Milan AC this weekend. Exciting game between 2 of the only undefeated team this season in the whole of Europe. I think it's Lille, Milan AC, and Sassuolo are the only 3, or maybe there's Betis Sevilla in Spain or Real Sociedad. I'm not sure, one or the other. Anyway, no more team undefeated in Spain. So it's Lille, Milan AC, Sassuolo, and there might be another one. But anyway, 2 teams who are undefeated facing each other on Thursday night or Friday morning if you're in Australia. In San Siro, Milan is really on fire this season, and even since the restart of the league of the Serie A back in July. They have a strong defense. They have the best defense in Serie A with only 5 goals conceded. In Europa League, they've only conceded once. They won 3-1 in Celtic, and then they won 3-0 at home against Sparta, and Brahim Diaz scored in both games, so he's a fine form, the striker as well. It's going to be a tough game for Lille. They're going to need to be on their A game because Milan is also very, very clinical. We know how Lille likes to play, and in San Siro I doubt that they're going to play with a high defense, so they're probably going to play with a low defense and try and play with their fast wingers and their fast strikers as much as possible. It's going to be interesting to see if Burak Yilmaz is really being the hardest worker, the hardest working player, in Lille and maybe in the whole of Liga. He's going to play against Milan because what he brings to the team is great, but what he doesn't bring maybe is the pace that Lille will need to try and have some good counter-attack in San Siro. So we'll see what decision Galtier make for that game in San Siro, the first of 2 games against Milan, of course, and in between there'll be the international break. The second game in Europa League for a French team is Nice. Nice is now in a group where all teams have 3 points. Everyone has beat sort of each other. Nice travels to Czech Republic to play Slavia Prague, a team that lost 3-1 to Hapoel Beersheva. Hapoel Beersheva that Nice beat 1-0, but Slavia Prague also beat Leverkusen 1-0. And Leverkusen had beaten Nice 6-2, so who knows who's good in that group. What's impressive is that Slavia Prague only allowed Leverkusen 1 shot on target, which is impressive when you know how good the German was against Nice. The Czech team haven't played any domestic game for the whole month of October due to a COVID break, I guess, in Czech Republic sports. So they had plenty of time to get ready for all of their European matches, including the one against Nice, and I think that gives them a serious advantage, in my opinion. Nice is still sort of looking for their starting 11. There's quite a few player changes. It's not as smooth as you want it to be. So I think Slavia Prague actually has a way to make everyone who thought that they were going to be the worst team in the group regret what they were saying, and Nice will want to prove that they can go and get the result against a team that held Leverkusen to only 1 shot on target. The important duel will be at each end of the pitch, not a direct duel, but an indirect duel, I guess, between the offensive threat, Dolberg, Guiri on one side, and Provod, Moussa, and Olayinka on the other side. Were both pair of strikers that have been quite prolific for both teams. That's going to be interesting to see how that plays out in Prague. That's it for our 5 European games coming up this weekend. Now we're going to go back to Ligue 1. Obviously, next week there's not going to be any European games because it'll be the international break. So the next week, Farmers Focus will be a little bit different. Alright, we're going to start with Ligue 1, the 9 games of Ligue 1 that were played this weekend. No games on Friday because Marseille was supposed to play Lens on Friday, so the Ligue 1 match day 9 started on Saturday, and the first game was Rennes against Brest at the Roazhon Park. 2-1 for Rennes, the final score. The goals, Da Silva at the 66th minute and Aguerd at the 70th minute for Rennes to answer to Brest, scoring first at the 57th minute by Honorat. Rennes, who finished the game with 69% possession, 24 shot, 8 on target, 2 on the post, while Brest had 9 shots and only 4 on target. Both teams have lost their last 2 games, Rennes versus Angers and Sevilla in Europa League, and Brest versus Nantes and Strasbourg. So they were both keen on bouncing back. Brest has conceded 3 goals each time against Nantes and Strasbourg. After a first half where Rennes hit the crossbar and basically that's all that happened. The first half was goalless. The second half had definitely more intensity. I think both coaches probably told their team that there's something to do. And Brest were the first to score by Honora at the 57th minute, at the end of an action where several times you hear the goalkeeper Alakbe, Gomis, the Rennes goalkeeper, saying, there's a player coming, and the defender sort of aren't answering or aren't responding well, and then Honora by himself, 5 meters away from Gomis, just crucified him. Fortunately, Rennes was pretty quick to answer. They leveled and then they took the lead thanks to set pieces, 2 headers by Da Silva and Aguerd, their 2 centre back. The end of the match was dominated by Rennes, by the home team, but Brest have one opportunity, and Gomis really had a wonderful save. Larsener on the other side actually had a pretty solid game as well, preventing Terrier and co from scoring more goals for Rennes. At the end of the game, Julien Stéphan, the Rennes coach, gave a quick interview as usual, post-match reaction, and he said he was pretty happy with the team's response. He said he was happy that his team showed character and showed that even though they conceded early in the second half, which was the worst thing for them, playing against a team that was defending and waiting for counter-attack, conceding first can really jeopardize your game. They showed a lot of character, that they had no doubt, and beating a team that is here to defend is always a good show for a team like Rennes who wants to play the main roles in Ligue 1. Next week, Rennes will travel to PSG, very big game, and Brest will host Lille. Next up is PSG, who was traveling to Nantes, and they won 3-0. Pretty easy win, especially on the second half for Paris Saint-Germain. Paris Saint-Germain with 63% ball possession, 13 shots, 4 on target, 3 goals, pretty efficient. And Nantes with 6 shots, 1 on target only, which was the penalty, I'm assuming. Yeah, the penalty that was missed by Nantes. PSG leader visited Nantes 15th, and Nantes was without their whole back four, 3 players with COVID, and the captain Palois was suspended. Nantes did have their best moment in the first half, and could almost score, but Moses Simon missed an opportunity in front of the empty net by himself at the 20th minute that he will probably regret all season. And Kolo Muani, who was able to maybe a little bit too easily dribble Danilo, who was playing in defense for Paris, then saw his shot just go a little bit wide. Not much to show for Paris Saint-Germain really in that first half. Paris Saint-Germain was playing without Neymar, without Di Maria, without Marquinhos, and without Kimpembe. They did start the second half a little bit stronger, and Herrera scored the first goal after a pass from Kais to Mbappé, and then Mbappé assisted Herrera for the first goal. A few minutes later, Mbappé was given a pretty generous penalty kick. Herrera scored at the 47th minute. Mbappé at the 65th minute was given a penalty kick. There was a lot of wind, I guess, in the stadium, and so Mbappé fell when he was sort of touched in the back. There's a bit of critics at the end of the game, especially by the Nantes coach Gourcuff about VAR. The VAR should be able to see that that's not a penalty, and the coach was a little bit mad that the decision was not overturned. Mbappé scored the penalty himself to be able to take the lead. Then there was another penalty, given to Nantes a little bit later, and the penalty was missed. The usual shooter is Brahim Louza, who was the captain as well for Nantes, but Louza did not shoot. Kader Bamba shot instead, and Keylor Navas was able to stop the penalty, this time with both his feet behind the line, not like last week. I forgot to say, Mbappé scored his 7th goal of the season, so he's again at the top of the goal scoring ladder. At the end of the game, Nantes really offered the 3rd goal to Sarabia. Louza, him again, was in the middle of his own box and wanted to pass the ball back to his centre back. Didn't really do that pass well. Obviously, he went straight in the feet of Sarabia, and then Sarabia turned around and just chipped the ball over Lafont. At the end of the game, Tuchel, during his post-game conference interview, sort of said that not having any fans in the stadium was a real problem for his team because there was no momentum, which is, everyone's in the same situation, I guess. But he was happy with the serious performance and with the good energy that he's seen in his team. There was a bit of worry that Moise Kean, who got out at halftime, and Mbappé, who sort of looked like he left the field after a knock were injured, but Tuchel reassured that they just both sort of took a knock, and then Tuchel didn't want to take any risk, so he just got them out so they can be ready to play all the games that they have to play before Christmas. Next week, Nantes is traveling to Lorient, while PSG, as I was saying, is going to be hosting Rennes. Next up is Saint-Etienne against Montpellier, and a victory and a win 1-0 by Montpellier in the Chaudron in Saint-Etienne. 54% possession for Saint-Etienne, 8 shots, 0 on target. It's a problem if you want to score a goal. And Montpellier 10 shots, 2 on target, 1 goal. Mavididi at the 14th minute. Saint-Etienne doesn't like to play Montpellier at home if you look at the statistic. Recently, with this game, it's a series of 4 games without scoring a goal against Montpellier. 3 times 1-0 and 1 time 0-0. And altogether in the last 7 games, Saint-Etienne has only scored once against Montpellier. And as a result, there's only 1 win, so they won 1-0 once, and then there are 2 draw and 4 losses. This weekend, they did not put 1 shot on target, and that's the second time in a row that they don't put a shot on target, which is pretty bad for a team like Saint-Etienne. Both teams started the season well. For the last 4 games, though, Saint-Etienne didn't take a point. 4 games, 4 losses for Saint-Etienne, and Montpellier only took 2 points from home. Both teams really wanted to bounce back, but Montpellier was without Omelin, without Ristix, who are injured, and without Souquet, Hilton, Le Talec, and Savanier suspended. And Saint-Etienne was without Debuchy, Trauco, Mukudi, Norden, and Restos, so not the best start for them. Mavididi, like I said, scored at the 14th minute. It's his second goal of the season, and Montpellier really dominated the first half. Saint-Etienne was just unable to bring any danger near Berthaud's goal. Berthaud, who was replacing Omelin, of course. The second half was only slightly better. Saint-Etienne, again, just a bit uninspired up front, and Montpellier, having done the job of scoring early, was just being patient. Kazri, who was playing for Saint-Etienne up front, unfortunately, just wasn't dangerous enough. Neither was Hamouma, and when they almost had an opportunity, Hamouma sort of took the left side and then crossed it to Aouchiche. Aouchiche just could not connect properly with the ball and sent the ball wide. Saint-Etienne is really playing young players, and it looks like it might backfire a little bit for Claude Puel, who's really trying to play as many teenagers as possible, and right now it just look like their confidence is all down. You gotta hope that in a couple of games they're going to fix that, but next week they're going to Lyon for the derby, and that's not going to be easy. Montpellier did show some signs of sort of going back to their early season form, with especially Laborde again, who was in very good form up front, but without Savanier and without their veteran in defense, it couldn't be an easy game, and they'll be happy that they could take the 3 points in Le Chaudron. Next week, like I said, Lyon Saint-Etienne will be one of the main games, and Montpellier will be traveling to Bordeaux. Next game up is Angers versus Nice, and Angers, who got trashed at home by Nice 3-0, 51 possession for Angers, so 50-50 really, and you can see that in the shots as well. 11 shots for Angers, 5 on target, 12 shots for Nice, 5 on target as well, but 3 goals for Nice. Ronny Lopez at the 12th minute, Les Melou, at the 23rd minute on penalty, and Boudaoui at the very end at the 77th minutes. Angers, who were pretty confident before the game, after their win in Rennes, just never do well versus Nice at home, and it showed again this season. When you look at their history, the last 8 games in Angers, there was only 1 win and 5 losses. So now we had 6 losses in 9 games at home against Nice. Nice, who hasn't lost in Ligue 1 since September 20th, are now 4th on the ladder, just a point ahead of Angers, before the game. Now 4 points ahead of Angers. Dolberg was on the bench for Nice, so Ronny Lopez really took the opportunity to open his goal scoring tally early in the game. Scored from a very narrow angle, and I think Bernardoni maybe not exempt of all. Maybe a little bit of a mistake from Bernardoni on that one. Bernardoni not in the best form against Nice, yesterday. 10 minutes later, another generous penalty kick was awarded after Bernardoni sort of tried to box the ball away from his zone, but he's doing that just at the edge of the box, really on top of Jeff Adelaide, and Jeff Adelaide complained that he got hit rather than the ball got hit. The VAR didn't say it was not penalty kick, so the penalty kick was given. I think it was definitely a challengeable decision. Les Melou scored the penalty pretty easily, and then in the second half, Angers just wasn't really able to bring any danger to Benitez. A few shots from long range by Bahoken, but nothing too dangerous. 15 minutes before the end of the game, though, Bernardoni again wasn't able to clear the ball properly. Guiri just heads it in, and Boudaoui really stole the goal, from Guiri, because Guiri's header was going in, and then Boudaoui, the young player from Nice, just hit it in before he could cross the line. So the goal was given to Boudaoui and not Guiri. Nice, I did say when we were talking about European team that Vieira is struggling to find his starting 11 and the most efficient starting 11. It looked like this team was a little bit more on the defensive side, despite Rania Adelaide being here, and they played really well. And they played really well. They showed really good efficiency, if not really good football. So maybe the fact that they were solid defensively, the fact that the first goal came from an assist from Dante, the defender, who was up for a corner kick, will give them the stability and the confidence to build from there. Angers, who he's a little bit on alternative current. They were 8th in the ladder before the game, and quite a surprising, I guess, 8th position. And now they're losing in Nice against Nice after they won in Rennes. Hopefully they'll be able to bounce back next week when they're traveling to Nîmes. Nîmes was not in the best form. Nice will be hosting Monaco in a very close derby in the southeast of France. And Nîmes is the next game. Nîmes was hosting Metz for another loss for Nîmes, unfortunately. Metz won 1-0, the goal for Gay at the 15th minute, despite Metz playing the whole second half down to 10 men with Udol getting a red card at the 44th minute. Nîmes did get 67% of the ball possession. The second half helped. 16 shots, but only 2 on target, and that's definitely the downfall for Nîmes. On the Metz side, 8 shots, 5 on target, and like I said, one goal, Gay at the 15th minute. If we look a bit at the stats pre-game, Metz had only lost once in 10 Ligue 1 game versus Nîmes, before Sunday, and they won 7 times in those last 10 games against Nîmes. Nîmes had not beaten Metz in Ligue 1 since April 1992. So that's a bit, but funnily enough, if you look at the stats again, the 25 times Nîmes and Metz played in Nîmes, there was only one Metz win. 12 draws and 12 wins for Nîmes. So those two stats might be contradictory, but it just shows that those teams haven't been playing in Liga a lot the past 20 years. This season, after a tough start, Metz actually hasn't lost in their last 5. And since coming back on the Metz bench 10 days ago, Antonetti has won 2 and drew 1. So they are definitely in a positive form, despite again not having their striker. And Nîmes was without Kubas, Melling, and Ferrat, 3 of their best players this season. And obviously, like I was saying, Nian wasn't playing for Metz, but neither were Boy and Pajot. The new recruit and the joker, Leia Iseka, Michi Batshuayi's brother-in-law or stepbrother, just arrived on loan from Toulouse this week for Metz and was on the bench against Nîmes this weekend. Metz made the best of their opportunity, really taking advantage of a pretty poor defensive effort for Gay to be able to score at the 15th minute. He was able to sort of get a couple of lucky knocks, but I think the Nîmes defense was definitely a little bit too passive against Metz early in that game, and they allowed that Gay goal a little bit too easily. The rest of the first half, not a lot happened. Udol, like I said, did get a red card before the first half for basically a tackle that had just a lot of intensity and from behind and the 2 feet away from the ground. There's no way that that red card would be contested. Nîmes, who couldn't even score even with one more man, and who had barely any opportunity. Okidja did a few saves at the end. He was able to shine mainly on long shot, long range opportunity, but yeah, never was he really bothered. Nîmes now is 18th. While Metz goes up the ladder after their first away win. After the game, the Nîmes coach Jobard was definitely not happy. He said, and excuse my French, I'm going to translate here what he said. He said that he has players who shit themselves when it comes to playing with Nîmes, and he has some forwards that don't understand that they have to attack the ball. They can't just turn around whenever they have a defender coming through him. Roux and Koné will appreciate that, the two strikers that started for Nîmes against Metz this weekend. Next week, Nîmes will host Angers and Metz will host Dijon, two games that are usually more for like a relegation than anything else. Next up, and our only goalless draw of the weekend, Dijon against Lorient. Dijon 20th on the ladder before the game, and Lorient 17th before the game. Dijon, the only team now who still hasn't won in Ligue 1, and Lorient, who haven't won since the very first game of the season. They were on seven losses after that game. The possession 53% for Dijon, 11 shots, 2 on target, and Lorient 9 shots, 1 on target, and I think that probably says what happened during that game. Dijon is, like I said, at the bottom of the table, and Lorient only 5 points. They're just not much better. Dijon usually likes Lorient. They enjoy usually playing against Lorient. In the 4 or 5 last season, they've been undefeated. But Lorient, who was without Le Goff, Saunier, Mendes, Chalobah, and Hamel, were able to still get a point from Dijon. Dijon did try to play a little bit more offensively than usual. Konate, Balde, Asale were up front, but nothing really happened. Not the most entertaining game, like I was saying. Dijon at the first half really under control, but they were not able to bring the danger. The second half was maybe a little bit more even. A penalty was given to Lorient. Unfortunately, Wissa shot that penalty on the post. Alagbe had fouled Lorient a little bit a silly way to get that penalty. Dijon kept pushing and tried to get a late goal after they got a bit, I guess, revigorated by that missed penalty by Wissa, but it stays 0-0 despite Scheidler shot putting Nagy in danger, but that was a good save for Nagy. Neither team would be happy with that result. Both teams 20th and 17th before the game, and the same after the game. Lorient actually down to 18th after the game. We'll be keen on bouncing back next week. Dijon is traveling to Metz, while Lorient will be hosting Nantes next weekend. Next up, Reims and Strasbourg, the other duel of the bottom of the table. Reims 19th before the game and Strasbourg 18th before the game, and Reims who gave that spot to Strasbourg after the game. Reims won 2-1. The first goal, an on goal for Camara, the Strasbourg goalkeeper, at the 22nd minute. Fès scored at the 26th minute for Reims, and Ajorc scored at the 30th for Strasbourg. All goals scored in the first half hour. 52% possession for Reims, so basically, sort of an even match. Reims, after a tough start of the season, got their second win in a row after a 4-0 win in Montpellier last week. They were 19th before the game. They did give the spot to Strasbourg after that nice win. The club from Alsace, who won 3-0 last week, just couldn't capitalize on that good form that they got last week. Coach Loré from Strasbourg was home, infected by COVID, and he was completed a pretty full, nasty unavailability list. Djikou with the burst of his second child, and then in the injury list, Sales, Liénard, Sadji, Lebeau, Mochiba, Koné, Ahoulou. Quite a few, unfortunately, not available for Strasbourg early this season after they were already plagued by COVID in the first couple of game days. The first goal came from, like I said, an own goal from Camara, but it was really a really good free kick by Cafaro, the 23-year-old from Reims. Free kick from 30 30 meters away, right on the post, and then he bounced on the post and on the back of Camara, and that was the first goal for Cafaro. Another set piece 4 minutes later gave the second goal, a header by Fess, and then 5 minutes later a penalty kick, so another set piece again, a penalty kick, a foul on Bellegarde. Ajorc shot the penalty and didn't give Rakovic a chance. The first half was definitely more dominated by Rennes despite the goal from Ajorc, and the second half Strasbourg brought it up a notch, but unlucky. They were not able to score. They had a very, very good chance at one point, but the ball sort of bounced on the Rennes goalkeeper and then bounced on Faes on his line, but the ball bounced out, unfortunately. Rennes, who's going to be happy that they got their second win, they're slowly but surely playing some good football, even though they had to sort of have set pieces to be able to score, and Strasbourg just still not playing properly, and they desperately need a result, which is not going to be easy when you know that next week they are going to have to play in against Marseille. They are hosting Marseille, and Strasbourg used to be that place, that fortress at home that's unable to drop any points, and they've dropped quite a few points this season in Lameno. So hosting Marseille is not the best way to try and get the result that they desperately need. Reims will hope to keep going their form, 2 wins in a row, hopefully getting the third when they're going to play in Lens next week, if the game happens, obviously, because Lens has already 2 games postponed because of COVID. Next up is Monaco against Bordeaux, and it's our big score of the weekend, 4-0 for Monaco. Big win, 3 goals in the first half hour. Ben Yedder on penalty at the 27th minute, Getson Martins at the 30th, and Voland at the 31st minute. Voland will get a brace, with the second goal at the 58th minute. 52% possession for Monaco, 17 shots, 6 on target, 5 shots from Bordeaux, not one of those 5 on target. Looking at the stats, the last 10 games between those two historical clubs have had at least 2 goals, and obviously Sunday didn't disappoint with 4 goals. Monaco wanted to bounce back after that 4-1 loss in Lyon, a game that they dominated. I think it was 75% possession at halftime, and it was 4-0 for Lyon already. And Bordeaux wanted to try and get two good results in a row after a win at home versus Nîmes, but they're really struggling away. They lost 2-0 against Lens and then 3-1 against Marseille, both games away, and now 4-0 against Monaco. What's going to be the next game? 5-0 loss away. Ben Arfa, the new recruit, started the game and played it full, which is surprising because he really looks out of shape, and I think he ran something like under 6 kilometers for the whole game, so it's not great for a striker or a midfielder like Ben Arfa is, even though he was used as a striker. Monaco's sort of 4-4-2 more than a 4-3-3 paid off this week, and after a solid start, all three forward-ish player scored within 4 minutes. So Ben Yedder on penalty, and Gelson Martins and Voland at the end of good sequences that ended up with a cross, and both of them scoring. The defense of Bordeaux definitely just appalling and too tender, and as well as the rest of the team. I think no one was really doing the effort. So Gasset, the Bordeaux coach, changed 3 players at halftime to try and bring a bit of energy in there, but really not much changed. Voland scored the 4th goal and his second of the night at the end of a very, very beautifully built sequence. You really, if you have a chance to look at the highlights, look at that great occasion by Monaco. It was a beautiful goal. 4-0 for Monaco, a bit of a tough result for Bordeaux, but if they keep showing what they're showing, it's not a surprise either. If you listen to what the coach said after the game, he basically said something like, I was told that Bordeaux was going to have to fight to avoid relegation, and now that I see the level of my team and what the players actually want to give me, I concur. We're just bad. We're just a bad team. We don't play well. There's no stability, and there's no one who's trying to actually make the team play better. So we're just going to be having a really hard season because we're not really good, which is a hard statement coming from the coach. Koscielny, the captain, said that he had a conversation with his teammate this week, where he basically told them that, if they want to have a good career, they have to work hard to make sure that Bordeaux comes back up on the ladder, because otherwise, if they can't make Bordeaux play better, they're only going to play for teams that are even worse than what Bordeaux is right now. So he tried to remotivate them by basically telling them that things will only get worse. They're not going to get better just because they leave Bordeaux if they don't want to play properly for the Girondins. As far as the team goes, Pablo in defense wasn't great. Otavio in the midfield wasn't great. Basic and Adli, who are the two players that can make the difference for Bordeaux, and I've singled out Basic a couple of times before, just didn't really seem concerned. Bordeaux was struggling in Ligue 1 this season, and we expected them to struggle, but I guess we were fooled by their performances that were a little bit were okay, I guess, early in the season, and now they're showing us that there's a lot of work to be done for them. Next week, Bordeaux will host Montpellier, and Monaco will be traveling to Nice for the South Derby. Last game of the weekend was Lille against Lyon, LOSC and OL. 1-1 to finish the weekend. The goals, Bamba at the 23rd minute and Selik with an on goal at the 41st minute. 60% possession for Lille, 15 shots, 6 on target, and for Lyon 8 shots, only 1 on target, and that wasn't the goal because the goal definitely was not a shot on target. Lille, who extended their unbeaten Ligue 1 streak versus Lyon to 8 games. They haven't lost against Lyon since November 2016, 4 wins and 3 draws since. Lyon, who started the game with the same starting 11 that they had last week when they beat Monaco 4-1, while Galtier, who's definitely rotating players with a game every 3 days, had left Bradaric on the bench, as well as their record signing, Jonathan David. Up front, Yilmaz was here obviously next to Ikone for that game. The game started with basically Marcelo taking a yellow card after a minute. To be fair, I think it wasn't fair. In my opinion, that yellow card was definitely a bit severe after it was an aerial duel, excuse my English, with Yilmaz. Marcelo was maybe a little bit late, but I think a yellow card after a minute on an aerial duel was a little bit of a harsh decision. The opportunities definitely were for Lyon early on. There was that crucial miss by Toko Ekambi, a ball through for Toko Ekambi, and Chino Kadewere, the other striker, just sort of stay really close and awkwardly close to Toko Ekambi. They both ended up sort of doing that 1v1 versus Mike Maignan, but Kadewere was too close to Toko, and I think bothered Toko Ekambi, and then Toko Ekambi lost his 1v1 against Maignan because of Kadewere. Next thing you know, counter-attack, bim bam boom. Lille really plays well when they have to play counter-attack. First attempt of target, and Bamba found the back of the net thanks to Bamba shot outside of the box, almost perfectly found the opposite bottom corner. Dubois, the right back, definitely is to blame for that goal. He's in front of Bamba and he basically just turned around instead of trying to put his body in a position. And I think to a degree, the goalkeeper as well, Anthony Lopez, should have been able to do better, but maybe he doesn't see the ball until too late. Lyon, who equalized just before halftime with an own goal by Selik. Aouar inherited the ball on the left and drove it into the box, and then I think his shot was probably destined to go to the corner post, all the way on the other side at best, if it wasn't going to be to a throw-in. But it was deflected by Selik in his own net, and luckily for Lyon, 1-1 at halftime, which was deserved, because if Lille played the first half well, as in, against a team like Lyon, you don't want to attack, because Lyon love to defend and operate in counter-attack. So Lille did that. Lille left Lyon a little bit of the ball and left them the position, and they basically play fast attacks, if not counter-attack. But yeah, 1-1, the draw was deserved at halftime. 5 minutes into the second half, second yellow and red card for a rough tackle by Marcelo. That was really dumb. That's where you see that a guy like Marcelo is a problem for Lyon, because however good he might be as a defender, you picked a yellow card early into the game, even if it's unfair. Don't come out the way he came out. That tackle just a little bit late, just very engaged. You know that you're not going to finish the game if that's what you do. After that, obviously, Lyon decided to defend, and Lille tried to attack as much as possible. Weirdly enough, though, Galtier did not change his tactical his tactics. Instead of sort of committing another striker in, you don't need to have 4 defenders anymore because Lyon is playing a very defensive 4-4-1. He kept his 4-4-2 and decided to rotate the striker, so he eventually ends up getting 4 strikers out and get 4 strikers in, or 2 strikers and 2 offensive midfielders instead of going to a defense with only 3 players or only 2 players. He wanted to, I guess, keep his shape more than trying to do everything to score a goal. I think much to the frustration of some of his players. What was impressive during the end of that game, though, was Ben Larmi, the new centre back from Lyon, with Denayer injured and Marcelo now who had a red card. Ben Larmi was brought off the bench. Ben Larmi, the Algerian international who hasn't played for 6 months, I think, comes from Saudi Arabia, sort of made sure he could break his contract before coming to Lyon and signing for free. As soon as he got in, an instant favorite on on Twitter or on social media. Really keen, a lot of intensity, some great tackles, some great anticipation. Really caused a lot of problems to Yilmaz. Really threw him off his game. And yeah, he just brought the grinta, that really intense wheel of defending into the squad, which is something that Lyon miss most games. So it was great to see him coming in. It's going to be interesting to see if Bellarmine Diomande becomes the official centre backs of Lyon instead of Marcelo and Denayer, which obviously is not going to happen because we know Rudy Garcia doesn't do those kind of changes. Another reaction that was actually funny was Marcelo, who was sent to the post-game conference, which is very weird already for Lyon to send the player who got sent off for the post-game conference. But anyway, Marcelo did the post-game conference and basically said that he was a bit mad at the referee for getting a red card, and that he said that it was probably because of what happened 2 years back with that referee. So that referee 2 years back was working on a game between Angers and Lyon, and I think he gives a yellow card to Marcelo, and then Marcelo get close to the referee, and to protest, Marcelo just slapped the yellow card away from the referee's hand, and so the referee gave him a red card because of that. And now Marcelo thinks that in both instances the referee was too severe. I think the first instance definitely deserved the red card. I think tonight, like I said, the first yellow card was probably a little bit harsh. The second yellow card was deserved. Anyway, that's that for Lille against Lyon. The game next week, Lyon is hosting Saint-Etienne for the big derby, while Lille is traveling to Brest. Alright, that's it for the 9 games of Ligue 1. To quickly recap, Rennes won against Brest 2-1, Paris won 3-0 in Nantes, Montpellier won 1-0 in Saint-Etienne, Nice 3-0 in Angers, Metz 1-0 in Nîmes, Dijon and Lorient 0-0, Reims 2-1 against Strasbourg, Monaco 4-0 against Bordeaux, and Lille-Lyon 1-1. Marseille versus Lens was reported because of COVID. What that means on the table is Paris Saint-Germain is by themselves on top of the ladder already after 9 games, 21 points. Second is Lille with 19 points. Rennes third with 18 points, and then Nice comes in with 17 points, followed by Marseille with 15 points, but 1 game in hand. At the bottom of the table, with 8 points, Reims, Lorient, Nantes, and Nîmes between the 15th and the 18th place, and then Strasbourg 19th with 6 points. Dijon very last with 3 points, and still not a win to their name, unfortunately. Next week, the first game will be Strasbourg against Marseille, and then Bordeaux, Montpellier, Paris Saint-Germain, Rennes, Brest, Lille, Metz, Dijon, Lens, Reims, Nîmes, Angers, Lorient, Nantes, and the 2 derbies to finish, Nice, Monaco, and Lyon, Saint-Etienne. That's it for Farmers Corner FC. Thank you very much for being here for the podcast once again. Please take a look at the Marseille View, the other podcast that I've done this week. And if you are local and from Australia, I've also done a podcast called M&M Podcast about football in Canberra, more amateur local football, the NPL, which is basically the second division here in Australia. Thank you very much for following. It's now on YouTube as well as any podcast service that you're listening on. Looking forward to seeing what French teams are doing this week in European leagues, and I'll see you next week. I'll talk to you next week, should I say, sorry, for our next podcast. Merci et au revoir.